11, 12, and 13. These ones right here, it's not hard, but you just never seen this notation. So how you guys were used to asking being asked this question was this. All this means is given x squared plus 6x plus 3, solve actually, let me rephrase this. Okay, so it's just the wording. So what you guys are used to seeing is solve this expression when x equals -1. That's all this means. Okay, so again, in grade 11, you'll keep seeing this function notation. How you read this is f at x equals this, f at -1. So, which means when x is -1, what does this function give you? So solve for this expression when x equals -1. That's all it means. Okay, you'll learn more of this in grade 11. You won't see this on the final exam. Okay.
Like the brackets just means like the variable that you don't know if the value is that.
Yeah. So this is a function in terms of x. So that's what it means. F at x.
So for your final solution, would you say f equals the number f at x equals or f at -1?
So when you sub in the -1 in here, you get 1 minus 6 plus 3, so you get -2. Yeah, so then your final answer, you would write like this. So when, so given the function, when x is -1, you get a y value of -2. And remember how I said, just think of f at x as y. So essentially, you're like solving for y. So this gives you the coordinate that when x is -1, you get y as -2. Right? So why grade 11 we use this instead of just y equal? Because you might be dealing with like 4 different graphs on one, 4 different lines or parabolas in one graph. So that's why they have f at x, g at x, to show that this is this parabola, this is this parabola, this is this line, and so forth. So same thing right here. So you are just substituting the 3 for the x. So g at 3 would simply equal -19. Like that. So your coordinate, if you were to write it as a coordinate, it would be this. When x is 3, your y value is -19. Okay. So all this with the functions, it's going to be good for you when you guys do grade 11 functions next year. Okay. So you guys got a head start. Determine the equation of the following parabola given this. Okay. So since they gave you vertex, you want to write it in vertex form. So y equals a, x minus h squared plus k. So y equal x plus 5 squared plus 1. Okay. I remember giving a question like this on the test for this unit. A lot of you guys just wrote me this without giving me the a value. Well, there is an a. Yes, this does give you the vertex of -5 and 1, but the overall parabola, there might be a stretch or compression. So you need to figure out what that a value is. And to find out what that a value is, you'd use this hint right here. The y-intercept of 11, what does that imply? What's your coordinate right here? Hazel? 0, 11. So this is your x, This is your y. So when you sub it in, that's how you can solve for a. So y is 11 equals a times, and then x is 0, like that. So then when you solve for a, you'll get 25a plus 1. Move that over, 10 divided 10 over 25. So when you reduce it, you get 2/5. Right? So then therefore your final equation, now that I know what a is 2/5 x plus 5 squared plus 1. Like that. Right? So as I said, we did a question like this on the last test for this chapter test, but some of you just totally forgot about that a. If I didn't need to ask for the a, this would have been like a 1-mark question. But when you see in the marking scheme that this is like a 3 or 4-mark question, you know that there's probably more to it. Okay. Okay, in the vertex form, and passing through these 2 points. Oh wow, this is a hard question. Okay. How many of you got an answer for this one? All right, good. But it's a hard question. Will you see a question as hard on the exam? No, because as I said, I think this package is harder than your final exam. So any coordinate, it's an x and a y. So in the first equation right here, you want to replace that x and y with that. So 5. I'll just set it up. I won't solve for the whole thing because it will take too long. And then the x is 3, and then k. We don't know what a is. We don't know what k is. We only know what x and y is based on this. So if I were to simplify this, then I will get 5 equal 3 minus 2 is 1. 1 squared is just 1. 1 times a is just a. So I have that. I'm going to now do my second equation with this point, with this x and y point. So sub in the 9 for the y, sub in the 0 for the x. So when I simplify this, I get 9 equal negative 2 squared is 4. 4 times a, 4a plus k. Oh, now what do we have right here? Paul? Oh, sorry, I thought your hand was up.
I could ask.
Okay.
Like,
What?
you could solve for a and
Using?
like substitution or elimination.
Right. Now you're just given 2 equations, 2 unknown. And then you have to use one of those methods to solve for a and x, a and k. Okay. Yeah, so this is maybe I would have put this as a bonus question on your test, for example. Yeah. Oh, Elizabeth, what did you get? Sorry, 4. 11 over 3. All right. Paul, is that what you got? You got that too? Woohoo! Good job, Elizabeth. Your answer is correct. Okay, so 2 equations, 2 unknown. Solve it using those methods, and then you should get those as your answer. All right, but this is it's a tricky question. If you got it, good for you. Okay. Page 9. All of this is solve. So reading the question carefully, solve. So all of these, you should have x equal as your answer. I know that some of you, once you see this, you're thinking, oh, factor. and all that. But read the question carefully. If it says solve, make sure you find an answer. Even after you factor or quadratic formula or whatever, it's x equal. Two different ways you can solve this problem. One, I'll show both ways for this one. You could bring everything to one side first, equals 0, and then factor out the 10 so that you get that. And then solve for this. So then you get the answer x equals plus or minus square root 2. All right, so you could solve it this way, or since this is there's just an x squared. There's no x, there's not another x term. So you could have just did 10x squared equals 20, divide that 10 over on the other side. So x squared equals 20 divided by 10. So x squared equals 2, and then square root it, you get root 2. But now that you've learned the grade 10 curriculum, you know that when we square root something, it's not just a positive square root. Just like in the quadratic formula, you have a positive and negative. So on the exam, if you just write x equals square root 2, you will lose half a mark because there's two answers: positive root 2, negative root 2. Yeah. So remember whenever you have now that you learn a square, when you square root it, there's a plus and a negative to it. Yeah. Yeah, always the case. Say that again?
Like, is there cases where it only has one solution and it's a square root?
0. 0. Yeah, so if it's square root, if it's x squared equals 0, then you just have to one answer where x equals 0. There's always a positive and a negative answer. Yeah. It's just for the past 9 years of math, we were lazy and just said the square root when you square root it, you get the positive answer. And then if it's let's say for example, x squared equals negative 2, then you know that there's no solution because you cannot square root a negative number until you get to grade 12. Yes. So when you get to grade 12, we use what's called imaginary numbers. Fun. Yeah. Okay, but 2 more years. All right. So then this one, same thing. Again, you could move that you could move that 12 over, expand it out, and then do the quadratic formula. Or you could also solve it this way as well. So x minus 2 equals positive or negative root 12. And then when you move that 2 over, you get 2 plus or minus root 12. This is just like the shortcut way to do it. Okay. If you did this way and then did the quadratic formula, you'll get the exact same answer. Same thing right here. If you expanded this out and then move that 12 over, simplified, and then use the quadratic formula, you'll get the same answer as well. But the key is if you do this shortcut method, remember, you have a plus and a minus. This one, we can't use the shortcut method because it's a trinomial where we have to factor. So then we would factor this x 6 1 plus. So then your two answers is going to be x equals negative 6, x equals negative 1. And again, if you don't like this shortcut method, don't use the shortcut method. Use the long way. Use the quadratic formula. It's okay. Okay. And then these, same thing, factor and then solve, or quadratic formula and then solve. Okay. this one. If you're thinking of the shortcut method, you're thinking, okay, I can cancel out an x on both sides, and then so x equals 4. But the problem with that is if you do that, you're gonna actually lose one answer. If we do the normal method, x squared minus 4x equals 0, you would do common factor. So then you would have this. And then what are your two answers? Your two answers would be x equals 0 and x equals 4. So if you did the short way and just canceled out the x on both sides, you would have lost this answer because you can't just cancel out a variable. It's actually still there. You just factored it out. Okay, so be careful with this one. You actually have two answers, x equals 0 or x equals 4.
Could you use the quadratic formula on it and get the same answer?
Yeah, you can. So then if you do quadratic formula, from this equation, then a equals 1, b equals -4, and c equals 0. And then using the quadratic, you'll get the same answer. Okay, and yeah, so remember x squared means that a is 1. And when there's no term, it means c is 0. And this one right here, you would have had to expand everything out, simplify, and then use the quadratic formula or factor. Okay. Moving along. Oh, this one. Let's I'll simplify this one. Okay, so this one, I have the variables on the bottom right here. So what I can do is just like how we want to get rid of the denominators, we would multiply everything through by the lowest common. So in this case, I'm going to multiply everything by, so I'm going to times everything by x and x plus 1. Okay? Just like, so actually here, I don't want that to confuse you guys. I don't want you guys to think that's another x. Alright, so my lowest common denominator here is x and x plus 1. So if I use this to times that, 3 times this divided by x, I get 3 times x plus 1. Right? The x canceled out. Minus 4 times this divided by x plus 1. So the x plus 1's cancel out. I'm left with 4x. And then what about the 1? 1 times all this is this right here. Okay. So just like, so that's why I say like that trick to multiply everything through by the lowest common denominator will get rid of your fractions. Same thing right here. Multiplying my lowest common denominator, got rid of all the fraction. Looks a lot nicer now. And then I would just expand this out, collect all the like terms, and then I have my quadratic formula. Okay, so I could simplify this. So 3x plus 3 minus 4x equals x squared plus 2x. Move everything to one side. So let's move everything to this side since I have the x squared here. So -1, so plus 3x minus 3 equals 0. Okay. And then from here, I would do the quadratic formula. So a equals 1, b equals 3, c equals -3, and then sub it into the quadratic. Okay. And Aryan, what answer did you get for x?
Sorry. For x, I got x equals
-2. Just one answer?
It happened again. I apologize.
You can't read your writing. Paul, what did you get for your second answer?
I didn't get x equals -2.
Oh, let me see. -2, 4. Yeah, 4. No, it won't be. It's not -2. What did you get?
I got x equals -3 and 1.
-3 and 1. Let's see. 1. No, I don't get that either. Because remember, when you sub it into this formula, it should satisfy it. Did I make a mistake? Oh, I made a mistake here. That's why. So this is x. So this is 2x. Oh, so then it's factorable. Is it 2? Negative 1x. Yeah, so 2x. Yeah, there we go. So then from here, now obviously this is actually factorable. So it's and then when you plug these numbers in, you will get the right answer. Yeah. Okay. Okay, moving along. These ones. Oh, so Bill throwing a ball, Paul launching a rocket, Hembio kicking a football. You know this. You know you're gonna see a question like this on the exam. Okay, it's like guaranteed. The whole grade 9 curriculum is on linear relations, lines. The whole grade 10 curriculum is surrounding parabolas, quadratic equations. So what better way to demonstrate a quadratic equation than to use a parabola, this football, this launch. Okay, so guaranteed you're going to see something like this. Throws the ball, given by this equation. If the ball was caught at the same height it was thrown, how long was it in the air for? Okay, so this is a little tricky question. If the ball was caught at the same height that it was thrown, meaning what was the initial height? All right, so what's the initial height right here? 1. That's right here. Okay, that's your y-intercept. So now it's asking if it's how long was it in the air for. So you want to figure out when height is 1 again. What is t? Okay, so therefore the question is when h equals 1, solve for t. Okay, so sub in 1 in here. 1 equals 1 plus 20t minus 5t squared. So when you move that 1 over to the other side, you'll get 0 equals 20t minus 5t squared. So now you're just solving for t. Easiest way, factoring. What's my first step in factoring?
First thing you want to do is complete the square.
Not complete the square. Common factor, right? Common factor. Always check for that first. So I'm going to factor out a negative 5t, actually. Okay. Why I'm factoring out a negative 5t instead of a 5t only? Because I just like to see that positive t right here. So you'll get the same answer. So if I factor out a negative 5t, I'll get negative 4 plus t. Okay, and then so now when you solve, you'll have your two answers. Negative 5t equals 0. That means t equals 0. And t minus 4 equals 0. When you move it, it means t equals 4. Okay, right? When you said
the same answer as last time.
We solved this question?
0 and 4.
Oh, well, there's only so far and long you can kick a football or throw a football. So that's actually a very good point. If you get an answer like t equals 20, think logically. Can a baseball be in the air for 20 seconds? For 20 seconds? That's a long time.
Really hard,
Even if you...
fan to keep it in the air, yes.
If you believe in yourself.
Are we on Earth? Yes.
Right, okay.
So
If you've been in an airplane, does that count?
the football, you threw that baseball so high that it hit the airplane or it hit a bird that it carried it
No,
landed on the
it
bird and then the bird
Take
kept.
terminal velocity, ran into space, and burned up in the atmosphere, and never hit the ground again.
What I'm thinking right now you got this picture in my head. This is you throwing that baseball, and then it hit a bird. That baseball lands on that bird, and then that bird slowly dies. And so that's why it took 20 seconds. All right. I will keep that in mind next year when I make my test. That would be a very funny question. And so that solved the mystery of why that baseball was in the air for 20 seconds. Okay, so and you know, when you get the answer like this, it's pretty confident that you got it correct because one of your answer is t equals 0, which means the initial. Yeah, initially it's at 1 meters, and then after 4 seconds, it's also at 1 meters. So let's say it didn't hit that bird. So this is 0 second, 1 second, 2 second, 3 second, 4 second. All right. So after 4 seconds, it's at the same height. So if I were to say an estimate, when did it hit the ground?
5.
Yeah. So it could be 5 seconds when it hits the ground. Right? So that would be a good estimate. If the ball was not caught, how long was it in the air for? So there you go. You're solving for your the x value when it hits the ground. So remember, I was when we did this unit, I was saying whenever it says how long, we're referring to x value. All right. When it's asked for the height, then you know we're talking about the y value. Maximum, minimum, we're talking about the y value, the vertex. Okay. So whenever how long, you're talking about the x, the duration. Okay. So that means, so in other words, the question is when h is 0 because it's on the ground. Solve for t. Right? So that's what it means. And so going back to your original question right here, you would have 0 equals 1 plus 20t minus 5t squared. Right? Now, this is I don't like the format. It's not the way that we're used to seeing. So I could rearrange it. I could rearrange this equation to negative 5t squared plus 20t plus 1 equals 0. I didn't change any signs. I just rewrote it in a more friendly way so that you can see it's easier to see. And then to solve for t, which means you're doing quadratic formula or a factor. Right? So quadratic in this case. And as we were saying, the answer that you should get should be one is a negative and one is a positive around 5.
Yeah, so when you do complete the square on it, it ends up being that the maximum height it reaches is 21 meters, which
What's the t that you got?
I got like the t's correct.
Yeah, no, but I meant when you did complete the square, what is the t value?
Wait, I have a question.
So one second. One question at a time.
So if you complete the square on it, you get negative 5 bracket t minus 2 squared plus 21.
Negative 5 bracket t
t minus 2 squared.
2.
Yes.
Okay, so
Midpoint, the maximum height is 21.
okay, so let's submit it here. Let's see if it is at 2. So 1 plus 20 times 2 minus 5, 2 squared, so 4. 21, yeah. So 21 meters. Is that too high?
Yeah, so the x is negative 0.05, and then it's 4.05. Close to 5.
Okay. So it's so for this one, Arian, can you repeat what your answer is? The first one.
Negative 0.05, sorry.
0.5.
And 4.05.
Is that what you guys got? Okay. So in that case, yeah, your math and everything makes it's correct. But if you think that 21 meters is way too high for Bill to throw, then then we need to change up those numbers a bit so that it makes more sense in reality.
Like for the throwing ball question and stuff, is it like there's never a time where the person or the ball is at like a negative value?
Yeah.
So it's only on the first part.
Yes. Yeah.
How long
Good
is there
question.
negative time?
Exactly. Yeah. So we can't have negative time. So that's why this answer we would reject. Make sure on the test you reject the answer that doesn't make sense. If you just left it like this, then that means you're telling me to mark both answers. I should tick both answers. If both are positive, then you would keep both answers positive if depending on the question. So if the question says if the ball was not caught, how long was it in the air for? Then let's just say the two answers that you got was 1 and 5. Then that means it was in the air for 4 seconds. Okay. So then you would consider both answers. Okay, seconds. Don't forget units. Seconds. Okay. Good. So if you guys see a question like this on the final exam, you guys better be perfect on it because you know what one of the question is, and so you should practice. Yeah.
If you're gonna negative value, we still need to write it like down in our calculations, right?
Yeah.
Just don't think of it as like-
Yeah. So you should still show your work to show that, and then just cross it out, or in your therefore statement, don't include that. So you still need to show me that you got the second. Okay. Set up the following problems. The sum of the squares of two consecutive odd integers is 290. Find the integers. Okay, so sum of the square of two consecutive odd integers. So that means your second one is x plus 2 equals 290. Alright, so there you go. And then to solve for x, what would you do? Yep.
First, I would expand on the bracket.
Yep.
And then what I do is, sorry.
Combine.
Yeah, so I just expand out the bracket and then I move the 290 to that side, and then I would use the quadratic formula in order to solve for it.
Right. So remember, whenever you do solve for x, you're either solving by factoring or quadratic formula. Okay, those two solve for x. Right. Find two integers whose sum is 96, whose product is 1728. So find two integers. And notice here it says setup. So setting up means this. Simplifying it to one quadratic equation. That's the setup. You don't need to solve. So two integers whose sum, sorry, let me set it, whose sum is 96 and whose product is 1728. So then this is 96 minus x. So x times 96 minus x equals 1728. And then just expand it out, simplify, and then that's your quadratic formula. And again, you would solve it using factoring or quadratic formula. Okay. A rectangular nuclear waste facility is one. So this is 80. This is 150. Okay. A uniform strip, a safety zone, must be fenced around the facility. So this is your new safety zone. This part right here. That's your safety zone. Must be fenced around. The area of the strip is twice the area of the facility. So since I'm adding a uniform strip means same distance on every side. That's what uniform strip mean. So if I call this x, that means this is x, this is x, this is x. So this distance right here is now 150. Oh, sorry, not 150. 80. This distance right here is now 80 plus 2x. And this distance on the bottom right here is going to be 150 plus the 2x. Okay. The area of the strip is twice the area of the facility. So I know the area of this part is 80 times 150, 12,000 meters squared. Twice the area of the facility. So that means this shaded part right here, shaded area equals 24,000. And I am looking for, so here, I've shaded it better. What do I determine the width of the strip? So I'm solving for x, but I need to figure out what the area of that shaded part is. So you have a rectangle within the rectangle. So my area of just that shaded part would be 150 plus 2x, length times width. Length times width. That would give me the area of the whole thing. But because it's a hollow in the middle, I subtract that. And that area would equals the 24,000. Right? And then simplify, expand, simplify again, and then you'll get your quadratic formula. And then to actually solve it, you would either do factoring or quadratic formula. Okay. So this one was confusing. It's a confusing question. Because here you're like subtracting 12,000, but then here you're adding the 24,000. So that's why it's a little confusing. But now, like when you draw a diagram, it makes more sense. Okay. I'll give you guys a second to copy that down. Okay. Got it? Okay. page 12. Moving on to geometry. Okay, so find the length of the indicated side using similar triangles. It even tells you what to use. You want to use similar triangles. So if you were to rotate this to this, you can see that you're comparing this length with this length, this length with this length. So to set it up, 75 over 45 equal 30 over x. Again, just be consistent. If you're starting with this triangle, on this side, you also have to start with this triangle. Okay? And then just cross multiply and divide. Cross multiply, 75x equals 45 times 30, 1350, divided by 75. So x equals 18. Okay. This one. You've seen so many of these. It was in the homework. It was on your tests. So make sure you don't get tricked again. Okay? So with these ones, remember I always say trace out your triangles. So yes, this is my first triangle. Okay, and my second triangle is this triangle. Okay, which means it's not 800. If I use 800, it means it's a trapezoid. It's not a triangle. The length of this side is x plus 800. And the length of this side is 1100. Okay, so this side right here, 1100. And this side right here is x plus 800. Okay, so don't just use that 750. Don't just use that 800. So now to compare, so 350, my blue triangle, to the length of my whole triangle equal the length of my small triangle over the length of my big triangle. Okay. Actually, let me write x plus 800 so I don't confuse you guys. Right, so then cross multiply and divide. Right, so you have 350 times x plus 800 equals 1100x. Okay, move it over, solve, and you'll get your answer. Okay. So you've seen it so many times. Just don't get tricked. Use it. Bring some color pencils to the exam if you need to, so that you can highlight. Okay. These ones right here. I only see one triangle, so I know I'm not doing similar triangles. What type of triangles are these? Yep. Right angle triangle. So what method should I use? SOHCAHTOA. Spell SOHCAHTOA for me.
SOHCAHTOA.
Okay, so there you go. This page is just all SOHCAHTOA. So these two are SOHCAHTOA. These two are sine law, cosine law, because it's not right angle triangle. Okay, for homework, next three page for homework, up to page 16. Up to page 16. And then on Monday, we do the last 3 pages and we're all done. Yay. Yeah, including 16. Up to and including 16. I forgot today is a short class.